Hello everyone, TMMgamer here. Today I have the pleasure of bringing you another one of my FIFA 13 videos. Now today's video is something a little bit new and a little bit special. It is my first subscriber gameplay video. Now yesterday I played subscribers at FIFA for the first time, so just wanted to let all of you guys know before we get into the video that if you do want to play me at FIFA, my FIFA account is TomAlexEvans. You can add me, there's plenty of spaces, and I will add you back now. I know I've been slacking off at this, but I've actually finally made the commitment. I'm going to play you guys as often as possible, and ended up playing 2.5 of you yesterday because I played 2 subs and I played a sub's mate who thought he could beat me, and well, that didn't end up too well for him. But this game is up against Stimpy, so big shout out to him and a big thanks for taking time out to play me yesterday. And as you can see, the teams we are using, I am playing as the Ivory Coast and Stimpy is playing as Bayern Munich. And you know, what I wanted to do with these videos is keep them fairly informal. You know, in a couple of videos I might actually properly break down how you play against me and what mistakes I noticed and, you know, what I'd point out. But, you know, this one, because it's the first video, I just want to keep it nice and light, nice and informal, and just talk you through the game and what I thought about it when I was playing. And as you can see here, you know, I took the lead very, very early on. Pretty much the first attack, I got a corner off it, and Drogba doesn't miss headers from that range. And whenever you go down this early on, it's very, very easy to get frustrated and think, oh, here we go, we're on for a thrashing here. But what I really liked about how you went about playing this was you didn't lose your head. You know, you poke that ball through, and that is a fantastic finish. And that is exactly what you want to do. As soon as you go 1 goal down, just don't panic, just keep passing, put a good ball through and take your chance like that. And that was an exceptional finish. And all of a sudden, from my point of view, I'm put on the back foot thinking, whoa, is this guy all of a sudden going to turn this around and put 10 past me? But you know, the important thing is, whenever you've had a bit of a frantic start and there's goals at both ends, you want to just calm the pace down a little bit, because occasionally what can happen is both players start to get really hyped up and really up for the battle, and it turns into a long ball contest. It's basically attack against defence, end to end. Everyone just punts the ball forward and charges up the pitch, and then when he loses it, the other guy just punts the ball forward and charges up the pitch, and that isn't really the way to go. What you want to try and do is get the ball down, knock it around, and then go from there. And this is what I try to do here a little bit. And the Ivory Coast are fantastic at this. And you know, if you guys have watched a couple of my live comments, I think I've played with these guys before in FIFA 13 and in earlier FIFAs, and I'm not quite sure what Javinho did there, but never mind. The Ivory Coast are an attacking force. They have so many attacking players, it is quite frankly ridiculous. You know, you can overload the team with like Keita, Doumbia, Javinho, Drogba, Chore, just so many good attacking players. And what I like to do is get them all on the field at once, because the big strength of Ivory Coast is their attack. Their defence is absolutely atrocious. I mean, they have Copa in goal, who's a 72 keeper. Sometimes I don't think he even performs to that rating. He throws so much in, it's untrue. So you have to basically try and outscore your opponent whenever you play with the Ivory Coast, because if you're up against any reasonable strikers, Copa isn't going to get a hand on it at all. But you begin to see here, I'm beginning to establish dominance of this game. You know, I've started to knock the ball round. I had a really good chance there. I headed it pretty much straight down the guy's throat. Probably should have scored from that header. But you can see me begin to get the ball down, and you begin to see Stimpy get deeper and deeper and really get penned in his half a little bit. And whenever this happens to you online, what you need to do is just not panic. And I know I run this through your guys' heads so often, telling you to calm down and not panic and don't rush. But you can see there, Stimpy just played that long, aimless, punted through ball up top. There was no chance it was going to get through to the striker. And all of a sudden, 2 passes and I'm in behind the fullback and I'm breaking down the wing again. Whenever you're under the cosh and you get the ball back, there's a temptation to try and do something with it immediately, because it's like, I haven't had the ball much, I want to just get up the other end of the field and score. You know, there's no need to do that, especially at 1-1. You know, you're well in this game, it's 1-1, there's absolutely no need to charge off or do anything silly. So just stay nice and tight, and then when you do get the ball back, try and do something with it. Don't just try and punt it up to a striker, try and knock it around, because defending takes a lot more concentration than attacking, because you've got to be watching every single attacker, you know, every single movement, watch where your defenders are, you know, think about charging a keeper out or narrowing the angle or do something clever. But when you're on attacking, all you're doing is really looking at space. You're not really paying attention to most of the players. You're just looking for big gaps in the field. You're looking for areas of the pitch where there's no opposition players, and you can sort of take your foot off the gas a little bit and just retain possession comfortably. But Stimpy, and this is the one thing that I would really strongly recommend to you to do, is when you're in this situation, you know, you're up against a player who's penning you back, just take your time, get the foot on the ball, pass it around, and don't do anything ridiculous. Because you see, you know, he tried a quick throw out, he tried his cheeky dinks into midfield, you know, now all of a sudden he's got the ball down and he plays one simple ball through, and all of a sudden he's moved at the pitch, and you know, I managed to cut him out and get the ball back. But you saw there, you know, it was a dink into midfield, into a midfielder, not the back four, so that's a lot better. And he got the ball down, played one simple pass, and then played a through ball through, and just nice little tactics like that help you move along. You know, it wasn't just that aimless long ball punt upfield like we saw earlier in the game. It was actually a little bit of a plan, a little bit more thought out. So that's what I'd like to recommend to you and to all of you guys out there watching. But the good thing was you did learn as you went along. You know, the opening 10 or so minutes were pretty hectic, you know, the 2 goals, and then all of a sudden it's Ivory Coast getting on the ball, controlling it a little bit more, and it sort of rattled you and it made you a little bit impatient to get the ball back and get forward. And you saw an example of that there. You know, the defender came storming out, trying to win the ball, left a massive hole in behind, and I just took advantage of it with one simple chip. You know, in this sort of game situation, you're 1-1, you haven't perhaps had the best half of your life, but you're well in the game. This goal was in the 41st minute, and really I didn't have to do anything for that. That was a defensive error, because the centre-half came absolutely storming out from the back, left that massive space in behind, and all it takes is one dink through, and someone of Dumbia's quality is going to finish that most times. So, you know, you've been in the game, you've played reasonably well, you know, you haven't been completely destroyed, but you haven't had much of the ball, and then all of a sudden just a little bit of impatience costs you. And, you know, this is a really good example of this, because if you just have held the defender back there, tried to force me to do something a little bit different, then the chances are you might have gone in half-time 1-1. And if you're in this situation, I mean, whenever I'm playing in this situation, I've had a bad half. If I go in at half-time and I'm level, I just go, right, forget the half. It's irrelevant. You know, it's 0-0, start again, and you can just basically just chalk it off to experience and continue. But the problem is, whenever you get impatient and frustrated, you make more mistakes, and that is a really good example of that. You didn't have a lot of the ball, got a little bit frustrated and made the mistake, and as a result, as the half-time whistle goes, Ivory Coast go in 2-1 up. You look at that half there, you know, that half wasn't a demolition. You know, I didn't have hundreds and hundreds of chances. I think you can see there, I think I had 5 shots on target. Don't forget that the stats for some reason don't count headers. It's a glitch that headers don't count as shots. So the shot stats are always a little bit misleading. But I had a decent half, but Stimpy was in the game. You know, I wasn't battering him off the park. And it just takes that little bit of extra patience just to keep yourself in the game in these situations, because inevitably in FIFA you will have spells where you're on top. It doesn't matter how good a player you're up against or how bad a player you're up against. You're always going to have spells where sometimes something doesn't work, and then you'll have that 5, 6, 7 minute period of everything's going well and you begin to play well. But to do that, you've got to get your foot on the ball and pass it around and take your time. And I mean, you saw another example there of just that long, aimless, punted aerial through ball. You know, those only work when you play the ball in around, you pull defenders out of position, and then you put the ball in over the top after, once you've created the space. If you're up against a flat back 4 or a flat back 5, you know, you see quite a lot of players use back 5s and just punt the ball upfield, you're not going to win any of those headers really, because a setup back 4 is very hard to break down, and that's why all of my attacking tips are on about pulling players out of position and moving the defenders across the pitch and up the pitch, and you're trying to break them up. And then once you have broken them up, you can play the ball in and get that shot on target. And you know, just that little bit of extra patience, but that will come with a little bit more practice and a little bit more experience with Bayern, because I think this was the first game you actually played with Bayern, an early game anyway, because I'd recommended them to you because they are a fantastic team. And if you haven't checked out my Bayern team tutorial, if you hadn't played as Bayern, I recommend it because they are an awesome, awesome head-to-head team to use. But you know, even with all of this, you know, slightly ragged play, the score's still only 2-1, so you're well within this game. You know, I've had a couple more chances at the start of the second half. You know, the pattern of plays stayed pretty much the same. You know, I'm having the majority of the play, but I'm not dominating, and Stimpy's having some good attacks on the break, like that one there. You know, tested my keeper, so he's still keeping me alive and on my toes. I'm not just switched off at this point. But whenever you're in this position in attack, so you're the guy who's on top, you haven't really got anything going, but you're not under too much pressure, it's, once again, patience is the key, and I go back to patience all the time, but that's because it's so important. I mean, pretty much every single attack I have, I'm passing the ball around, I'm trying to maneuver defenders, and then I make the dink through, and unfortunately it rattles the post again. You know, me and the post don't get on anymore, and it bobbles away. But you know, you can see here, whenever I get the ball, I'm trying to knock it around, I'm trying to find that unmarked player, and then when I'm in a little bit of space, I hit it, and once again it cannons off the bar because the bar hates me. But you begin to see what I mean. I'm not just aimlessly whacking the ball upfield. I'm beginning to try and think about my attacks, trying to break people down with, you know, short passing, with movement, getting the ball wide, then get the cross in. Unfortunately, I hit that a little bit too hard. That was a mistake on my part. But you begin to see how the pattern of play sets up. No, you saw several examples in the first half where Stimpy would get the ball back and just like that, whack the ball over the top without thinking. And that is completely the wrong thing to do. When you're under the cosh, you want to get the ball as much as possible just to relieve pressure on your defenders. And when you're on top, you want to get the ball as much as possible just to keep knocking it around, keep trying to manipulate defenders out the way and try and make a bit of space. And being that little bit more patient, both in attack and defence, pays off so much in the long run. Because a lot of people think that the easiest and fastest way to get the ball back is just to charge players up. And I completely disagree with that. If you keep that rigid defence and force your opponent to do something special to beat you, vast majority of the time the opponent's not going to do it, and he's going to give the ball back to you. And you see several examples of this where I just set my defensive lineup, I go break me down if you can, and I just let the opponent give the ball back to me. You know, you see it happen quite a lot. It happens in all videos. I'm not just saying this about Stimpy. You know, that is how I defend in every single game I play. And for new guys and for players who are new to that method of defending, it's very, very difficult to get your heads together and get it around it. Because running away from the ball and microing players away and behind and covering spaces, it's completely alien to what you want to do. Because, you know, you see that ball, you see the opposition on the ball, and you're like, I want that back, I want to score goals, I want to do something, I don't want to defend. But if you are that ultra aggressive, impatient defender, yeah, every now and again it's going to come off and it's going to look fantastic, but then it's going to completely fail. You're going to fall flat on your backside, egg on the face time, all the cliches are out here. It's going to be a disaster. You need to stay patient, and you know, this is my major tip for this video, and I've mentioned it a lot, so hopefully it's going in, but you know, you can see just how that little bit of patience benefits you in both attack and defence, because rushing and getting frustrated and charging around really doesn't benefit anyone, either on attack or defence. You've got to stay patient, and when you're patient and you manoeuvre those players around, then you really do reap the rewards. But to sum up, if I was going to bullet point 2 or 3 things you need to look at, firstly, I'd just say when you're on the ball, don't immediately think you've got to play that killer pass straight away. Knock it around, take your time. And as you can see here, that wasn't just one aimless whack and one aimless cross. It was a bit of passing, and I got the winger free in space, put the ball in, and nodded it in, nice and simple. And keeping the ball and manoeuvring it around doesn't mean really intricate passing. If you look at my attacking play in this game, I've done nothing spectacular. I haven't been rainbow flicking, I haven't been chopping past 4 players. It's just been nice and simple, get the ball down, take a touch, pass to a guy in space, rinse and repeat. Nice and simple. It's very, very easy to execute, and it's very, very effective. And that's what I'd recommend to you. Whenever you get that ball down, just take that extra little second or 2 just to have a look and go, no, I'm not just going to punt this. There's a guy on the left in space, I'm going to pass to him, and when he's on the ball, I'm going to have another look and see what's on. And then if there's nothing on, then I'll play the ball upfield just to be safe. But if there is, I'll pass it in there and whatever. So that's what I'd recommend for you on attack. On defence, most of the time you defended pretty well. I've played players who are woeful at defending, and I actually mentioned this to a couple of you guys when I was playing you yesterday, that I play some people online and you think they aren't using their hands to hold the controller, they are defending that badly. There are no defenders anywhere in their own half. It's just a complete shambles and you tear them apart, and it's all just a little bit too easy. And I'm glad to say you defended 90% of the time pretty well. I had to do a good move to break you down. I wasn't just wandering through easily. I had to pass, I had to take a bit of time and break you apart. So that's a good thing. For a new player to be defending as well as you are, that's a good sign. But one thing I would recommend, you saw for the goals I scored against you, they weren't massively advanced tips. It was just, you know, a few simple passes, and then all of a sudden one defender came barreling out of position and gave me an easy chance. But 90% of the time that didn't happen. So I'd have to say, you know, 3-1 victory in the end. It could have been a couple more, but equally, you know, Stimpy, you could have got a couple of goals too, a few nice counter-attacks. So I really hope you've enjoyed the gameplay. I hope you've enjoyed the slightly relaxed analysis as well. I'm going to try this a few more times, see what you guys think. But well, I hope you learned something from this video, because I see a lot of players online play like this and make these mistakes. So if you guys begin to pick these tips up, hopefully you'll begin to play better and win more games. But guys, once again, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as always, have a great day.